Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than I want to blade Netflix series. I'm your host, Arris. It's commonly known that Batman has one of the largest and best collections of supervillains, not only in comics, but I would say in all of fiction. I would also put Spider-Man's villains up there as well. But the point is, with Batman having such a large collection of great villains, some pretty awesome baddies fly right under the radar and don't get the attention or love they deserve. So today I'm going to run down who I personally think are the 10 most underrated Batman villains. I do want to make it clear that this is my personal list, so clearly not everyone is going to agree with me. And if you find yourself asking how characters like Mad Hatter or Clayface aren't on this list, just know that that's because I don't consider them underrated. With that said, let's talk about some Batman villains. Kicking off this list is Kite Man. Now I'm just going to say it up front. The only reason he even made this list is because of his recent take in Tom King's DC Rebirth Batman run, in the storyline called The War of Jokes and Riddles. I don't think Kite Man is a huge threat to Batman, like at all, but he immediately became underrated in my opinion when Tom King gave him an awesome new origin and backstory. So much so that he made it on this list. Now I'm not going to get too much into detail here, as this isn't a history of episode and there's just a lot to it, but just know that it involves him being manipulated, used, and caught in the middle of the war between Joker and Riddler. Then they also tie in really tragic events about his son, and it really makes you care about the guy, despite the fact that he is a villain. You just feel bad for him. Again, Kite Man isn't a threatening villain by any means, but man, his character is fleshed out very well. So just based on how interesting he is alone, I'd say he's highly underrated. Here we have Lockup. He's definitely a more obscure D or C-list Batman villain, but nonetheless, his whole MO is really cool. Like several awesome Batman villains, he first appeared on Batman the Animated Series, in the episode not surprisingly titled Lockup. Not long after, he made his comic book debut in Robin 24 in January of 1996. His real name is Lyle Bolton, and he's the chief of security at Arkham Asylum. Problem is, he likes his job a little too much and uses excessive force and torture to keep the inmates of Arkham in check. Long story short, he eventually gets fired from Arkham, and this leads him to take matters into his own hands, transforming himself into the costume vigilante Lockup. It's at this point he starts using extreme methods to lock up and get rid of anyone he thinks is a danger to society. He's kind of like an irrational version of Batman in the sense that he just wants justice and peace, which is what I think makes him such an interesting villain. Next up is Anarchy, who first appeared in Detective Comics issue 608 in 1989. People mainly know of him from the Beware the Batman cartoon and the Arkham Origins game. His real name is Lonnie Mackin, and as a child his adoptive father Mike would take Lonnie to the bookstore, as he loved learning, especially about philosophy. That being the case, at only 12 years old, Lonnie was already aware and angered by the power and corruption of corporations, governments, and the elites of the world. So what do you think he did? That's right, he put on a costume that made him look taller and took to the streets as Anarchy, attacking multiple CEOs and celebrities, and tagging them with the Anarchy symbol as his calling card. He's just a really cool villain. He incites chaos, as his name implies, and is more of a movement than a single villain per se, as he promotes anarchy. So mix that with him being a good martial artist, gifted strategist, fantastic computer hacker, and brilliant inventor, and I'd say he's a pretty underrated villain. At number 7 is Victor Zsasz. He first appeared in Batman Shadow of the Bat issue 1 in June of '92. Now I know he has a decent role in the Gotham TV series, but I still think he's highly underrated for the simple fact that this guy is freaking insane, and one of the worst serial killers in Gotham, if not the worst. I mean, the man has no regard for human life. After his parents died, followed by one bad experience after another, he decided that killing people was a gift, as he's simply liberating his victims from their pointless existence. This is why he refers to his victims as zombies. Also, even though he will kill anyone, he prefers young women, because, again, he's a psychopath. He usually kills his victims by slitting their throats before putting them in lifelike poses. And for every person he kills, he cuts a scar into his body, so all those scars represent a kill. What I'm saying is, considering how many lives this guy has taken, he's definitely one of Batman's biggest threats. Next up is KG Beast. He first appeared in Batman 417 in 1988. He's an assassin from the KGB in Russia who uses cybernetic armor to get his kills. And while he's not as popular as villains like Mr. Freeze, the Riddler, and so on, he's still one of the most dangerous villains Batman has ever faced. He's such a skilled fighter and tactical expert that he's said to be on equal ground with the Batman himself. In fact, when KGB's challenged Batman in a fight to the death, the Dark Knight didn't jump at the opportunity. Instead, he responded by saying, "A few years ago, I would have jumped at this chance to test myself against you, but time has taught me many valuable lessons. There's no reason for me to risk my life coming in there after you. It would neither accomplish nor prove anything worthwhile." Instead, Batman locked KGB in the sewer somewhere, leaving him there to suffocate and die. It was revealed later on that Batman did call the cops to get him out, but the point is, Batman was like, yeah, not worth taking the chance. That right there tells you KGB is not to be taken lightly. Making the top 5 is Lady Shiva. She first appeared in Richard Dragon Kung Fu issue 5 in 1976. Simply put, Shiva is considered by most characters in the DC universe to be the best fighter on the entire planet. In fact, she's so skilled within the DC universe that it's considered an honor to be trained by her. This woman is so deadly that she can kill someone with a single strike. And I'm not talking using weapons, I'm talking just her hands. Put it this way, while Shiva and Batman are enemies, he has so much respect for her immense skill that he went to her for training after his back was broken by Bane to rebuild his fighting skills and spirit. Ultimately, she's one of the top 3 fighters in the entire DC universe, and you really don't see that much of her. Underrated? I'd say so. At number 4 is Professor Pig. He was first introduced in Batman 666 in 2007. And you might be thinking, if he first appeared in Batman issue 666, does that mean he's extra evil? And yes, he is. I know he also recently appeared in Gotham, so you might be a bit familiar with him, but man is this guy crazy. For those of you who don't know, he's a deranged scientist who performs twisted surgeries on his victims to shape them into his idea of perfection. What he calls Dollatrons. How does he make them into Dollatrons, you ask? Well, you might be sorry you asked, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. In his words, he creates them by attaching specially designed masks to his victim's face. These masks seal themselves onto the victim and start to transform their head. Pig then surgically alters them or lobotomizes them himself so that they have no will of their own, basically transforming them into mindless zombies that silently follow Pig's orders, as he tries to make everyone perfect. I don't know about you, but you would think you would hear more of a villain this Looney Tune. Making the top 3 is the ventriloquist, Arnold Wesker to be exact, as there's been several people to take on the ventriloquist persona over the years. He first appeared in Detective Comics issue 583 in February of 1988. If you guys have seen Batman the Animated Series, which I'm sure most of you have, then you are definitely familiar with this character already. He's also appeared in the Arkham games. I just feel like this villain isn't talked about nearly as much as he should be. I mean, he's one of the most bizarre villains Gotham has to offer, and that's really saying something. Anyway, Wesker suffers from dissociative identity disorder, which he developed after seeing his mom killed right in front of him. What makes him so creepy and interesting though, is that people often think of his puppet Scarface as the bad guy, and Wesker himself as the poor dummy doing Scarface's bidding. Which of course is impossible because the puppet isn't real. So to me, that makes the ventriloquist scarier, because he's so crazy and detached from reality that he thinks the puppet Scarface is doing the crimes, when in fact, he's the real mobster and mastermind. What I'm saying is, the ventriloquist is one of Batman's most interesting enemies, when you really think about terrifying Batman villains. Coming in runner-up is Owlman. He first appeared in Justice League of America issue 29 in August of '64. He's a member of the crime syndicate and literally is just an evil version of Batman, so he has the same wealth, skills, and genius-level intellect as Batman, but instead of using it all for good, he uses it for evil. Is there anything more dangerous than Batman without a moral compass? I'm not sure there is. So it's beyond me that a character that's just an evil doppelganger of Batman who can do everything Batman can isn't used more or talked about more. Coming in at number 1 is Hugo Strange. He first appeared in Detective Comics issue 36 in February of 1940. Though used in the Gotham series, Arkham games, Young Justice, and so on, I feel Hugo Strange isn't put on the level he should be by the casual fan. I mean, he's been around even before the Joker and Catwoman. He's a brilliant yet disturbed psychologist, chemist, and overall genius, who's so obsessed with Batman that he's dressed up and run around pretending to be Batman on more than one occasion. In fact, he thinks that he would be a more efficient and ruthless Dark Knight. He's also one of the few to figure out that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Originally, Hugo Strange was actually created to be Batman's #1 archenemy, the Moriarty to Batman's Sherlock Holmes. And while that title eventually went to the Joker, Hugo Strange's brilliance and obsessive behavior easily makes him one of Batman's biggest threats, landing him safely at #1. But that's just my 2 cents. I'm sure many of you have different lists, as these kinds of lists are mostly subjective. So let us know what your Batman villain list would be in the comment section down below. Domain.com is a one-stop shop for domains, websites, and reliable web hosting. From .com and .net domain names to intuitive website builders, they've got all your website needs covered. Domain.com is awesome. They're affordable, reliable, and have all the tools you need to build a new website. And with affordable everyday pricing on .com domains, you can easily start sharing your ideas with the world on a professional website. After all, no domain extension will help you tell your story like a .com or .net domain name. And if you want to brand yourself online, Domain.com has over 300 domain extensions to fit your needs, from .club to .space. And if that's not enough, the guys at Domain.com are also great friends of Variant, and to show their love, they're giving you 15% off their already affordable prices on domain names, web hosting, and email when you use the coupon code Variant at checkout. So take that first step in creating your identity online. And when you think domain names, think Domain.com. First up for Wednesday, February 28th, we have Moon Knight issue 192. The Sun King and Bushman lure Mark to a tropical island with irresistible bait. Here we have Spider-Gwen issue 29. Gwen Stacy has let herself get lost in Venom, and it's turning her against her allies, including Captain America. Next, we have the Terrifics issue 1. This is a brand new title that puts Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, Plastic Man, and Phantom Girl on a team together, and they have to find their way back home. And finally, we have Flash issue 41. The Flash has lost what he prizes most of all and must call in an old ally to protect Central City while he sets out to get it back. Wally West. And that's going to bring another episode of Variant to a close, but remember, links for all our social media like our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and website are in the description below. But I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things comics.